The East Village and the West Village are pretty similar neighborhoods. Said absolutely no one ever. Their names may be similar, but these neighborhoods couldn't be more different from each other. So I'm gonna put these neighborhoods head to head in a few different categories. We're gonna go over 5 different topics: aesthetics, dining, living, nightlife in the bar scene, and then recreation. And at the end, we're gonna pick a winner overall, so stay tuned for that. So the aesthetics category is going to go over what the neighborhood looks like when you're basically walking around the streets there. Now, both of these neighborhoods look very, very different from each other. The East Village really feels and looks like what you would expect New York City to look like in the movies. There's so much character there, with also a little bit of grunge. Not as much grunge as the Lower East Side, but that's for another video. Now, the West Village is a very pristine neighborhood. It's considered quite charming, actually. A lot of people say that the West Village looks almost kind of like a European city at times. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, there's cobblestone streets. The streets are also tree-lined there, and the facade of the townhomes are absolutely breathtaking. The East Village does have townhomes too, but there's just something about the look of the townhomes in the West Village. The residential streets of the West Village are some of my favorite streets to just kind of like take a stroll down and like a lazy afternoon in the city. And on top of it, the West Village is also neighboring the West Side waterfront. So not only can you walk through the actual neighborhood, but you can also then just walk over to the West Side waterfront and take a walk along the Hudson River as well. You really do get a little bit of everything there. Now, the East Village is also bordering the waterfront on the east side. It's a little bit different there because literally as I'm creating this video, New York City is literally in the process of revamping the waterfront on the east side. Now, you can walk along certain areas of the east side waterfront, but it is not the same as the west side at all. But at the time of this video, it looked very, very promising. It looks like they're really doing a great job with it already. So the winner of the aesthetics category is definitely gonna go to the West Village. Now, I do have to say the West Village is one of those neighborhoods that would probably beat out almost every other neighborhood in Manhattan for this category. Like, that's how aesthetically pleasing the neighborhood is. Now let's take a look at dining. Both of these neighborhoods have a ton of great dining options here. As a whole, the West Village is definitely known more for its dining scene. They just have a ton of little cute restaurants and cafes lining those tree-lined streets I was talking about. But the East Village options aren't bad as well. I would say that the East Side dining definitely tends to be more casual than the West Side dining for sure. And because of that, the East Village specifically tends to not be nearly as pricey as the West Village. So the category winner here is going to be the West Village. Now, this one was a really, really close call for me. I literally went back and forth between West Village and East Village so many times with this answer. And I decided on West Village just because there's something about dining in the West Village. Like the whole scene and again, the aesthetics, not only of the neighborhood, but of the restaurants. It's just a very, very pleasant experience. Now, I do have to say, I will give credit. I do think that the value that you get from restaurants in the East Village is definitely probably higher just because the price of the West Village can just be a little much at times. But there's just something about dining and just like going out to eat in the West Village. So I did have to give it to the West Village for this category. Now we're going to take a look at living. West Village apartments tend to be very, 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 very small. There's just not a lot of space in the neighborhood unless you are paying a ridiculous amount of money. Then you can get pretty much all the space you want. It's also a pretty competitive neighborhood, especially if you're looking to rent here. People want to live in the neighborhood for the location. It's definitely considered like one of the places to be in New York City. The East Village has way more options as a whole. If you also look at the East Village on a map, it's definitely way more bigger than the West Village. So it does also make sense that there would be a lot more options here. The East Village also tends to have more high-rise and mid-rise buildings than the West Village does have too. So you really do have more options here. So I would say overall, for Manhattan specifically, the East Village does have reasonable prices for the amount of space that you're getting in the neighborhood. Over the past 10-ish years, there has been a rise in new construction in the East Village and not so much in the West Village just because there's not as much space to build up there, and there are also legalities with building in the West Village as well. So I'm gonna give this category to the East Village. The reason why is because I do think that you get more for your money in the East Village. Your money definitely goes much further in the East Village. I really do think the value is there. Now, I know there are a ton of people who will still pay all this money to live in the West Village in a tiny little apartment just to be in the West Village. And I get that. I just think that the East Village is more worth what you're paying there. A lot of people want to live in the West Village to say that they live in the West Village. I get it. It's a trendy neighborhood. But what you pay for what you get there sometimes isn't the best. So we're going to take a look at the nightlife and the bar scene. Both of these neighborhoods do have really, really great bars. Now, I personally like to dine out in the West Village, as you can tell from the dining category. But if I had to choose a bar scene, I would actually go with the East Village. The East Village has a lot more fun and casual bars there, I would say. There are some bars that try to go for that in the West Village, but I don't really think they succeed at that vibe like the East Village does. Plus, the drinks are typically slightly cheaper on the East Side, which is just always a plus. So the winner of this category is definitely going to go to the East Village. Now, also something to note too here. When it comes to like going out, both of these neighborhoods aren't really known for like going out clubbing per se, I would say. They're both near neighborhoods where you're definitely doing that more, but you're pretty much relying on the bar scene here more than like, all right, I'm going to go out to the club. So that's just something I wanted to know as well. Now let's take a look at recreation. So when I'm talking about recreation, I mean like outdoor fitness facilities, really things like that. Like I said before, the West Village has the Hudson River, which I absolutely love. That waterfront over there is absolutely gorgeous, and they have so many different like activities that you can do outside over there. You can bike, you can run, you can just walk along the waterfront. It's gorgeous. So if you take a look at the West Village, they have an Equinox there. They also have an F45, that smaller kind of boutique fitness center. They have a bunch of other boutique studios there as well. There's always some new fitness thing popping up in the West Village. They have SoulCycle, of course. The East Village pretty much has smaller studios, but the East Village also does border the neighborhood of NoHo, and NoHo specifically has a ton of fitness facilities there. I don't know what it is with NoHo because it's such a tiny little neighborhood, yet there are so many gyms packed into like this one little section of New York City. So not only do you have the fitness centers in the East Village, but you also, depending on where you're located in the neighborhood, have the options in NoHo as well. They do also have Crunch Fitness there, which is obviously a bigger facility. And when it comes to waterfront, like I said before, the East Village waterfront right now at the time of this video isn't that nice yet. So there are areas to walk and run in the neighborhood, but it's just not as pleasant as the West Side is for that. So the winner of the recreation category is gonna have to go to the West Village. So I guess the West Village is the overall winner between the East Village and the West Village. But honestly, it was a little bit of a close call on a lot of different categories. Now, I would love to hear what you guys thought of each one of my answers in the comments. Do you guys agree with my opinions? As always, I just love hearing from you guys.